like I was saying, when we think about our immune system, the immune system means we have gotten specific. Okay, the specificity going against one particular pathogen. So one of the ways that we do that with the cell-mediated response, or we can look at the humoral response. Once again, not ha-ha, okay? So, looking at the humoral response, that means that we have now incorporated that B cell that's going to generate antibodies. Those antibodies can get into the bloodstream. They can go and or they'll be created so that this pathogen can attach to it. And when this pathogen attaches to it, it tags it or marks it for destruction. So when we look at this humoral immunity, it's not quite as direct. It's a little more indirect. We're going to see that those B cells produce the antibodies. The plasma cells are what's from the B cells. So when the T cell is presented with the antigen, and it's like, ooh, okay, we got to mount the attack, but I need some help. Helper T cells will call up B cells. And in the B cells, when they begin to reproduce, we get the plasma cells. The plasma cells contain the antibodies. So in this plasma cell, okay, now, talking about the MHC2, that means it's going to tag the little piece that needs to be destroyed. We're going to have chemicals get used, all right? We're going to see antibodies getting formed. Those antibodies want to tag the foreign piece to get it destroyed. The ways that we can go about it, once again, cytolysis against a cell, phagocytosis, immune clearance, inflammation, neutralization, agglutination, precipitation. Think about that for a second. Do you happen to remember what happened when we were in the blood chapter? And we talked about how if somebody was given the wrong blood type, what on those terms right there happens? Agglutination. This was the body protecting itself against the incorrect blood type. And how did it do it? The antibodies that came in and attached to the wrong red blood cell, and they agglutinated, and they basically clogged up veins and arteries. That was the immune system working, if that makes sense. Memory is needed. In the cell-mediated, I generated memory T cells. Now that I have activated B cells, I can also get memory B cells. They are going to be the ones when we have the B cells. Do you remember how when we were talking about the structure of a lymph node, it has the outer portion, which is the cortex, the inner portion, which is the medulla, and the outer portion had these little pockets called the germinal centers? That's the point that the B cells can reproduce very quickly. If they have generated a memory, that little pocket area is where they can be to generate more and more and more of those antibodies to go fight the pathogen again. Okay? So when it's humoral, we've called up the B cells, those B cells produce an antibody that can go against the foreign object. So one of the handouts that I gave you, okay, it did come out in color for some reason. I think I forgot to click that when I printed it, okay? So if it were in color, this is what it would look like, okay? So let's kind of see what's going on with humoral, and I have it right here. So at this point, because there has been introduction of a foreign object, the antigen. See how that's kind of being represented up there with the little green dots? Okay. Now, what's gonna have to happen is we're going to have it get presented. Once it's presented, if it's an antigen that's recognized, okay, what we can do is we can get these B cells, which they're trying to show here, my lymphocytes, the B cells, and if it's recognized, well, once I get the T cell activated, the T cell can call up helper cells can call up the B cells can begin to reproduce. The way that these B cells are going to reproduce, they are going to generate these plasma cells, because it's the plasma cells that can generate my antibodies. Is everybody following me? And then we'll need at least a couple of them to make memory cells. The rest of all the B cells that get formed, we just simply want them to begin to make antibodies. Produce, okay? So that those antibodies can be released, make their way to the antigen that they're going to match up to. This little antigen right here, match up to the antigen, grab onto them, and target them for destruction, and keep the process going until the antigen is destroyed. And then, once you're done, you would have the cells that have been created as memory, and more memory, we still have memory cells get created, create more antibodies, pick up the antigens, target them, kill them, and keep going. The difference here is that we created something, the antibody, that's now in the blood. It wasn't the cell, like the T cell, okay, that went and just T cell, the killer cell, okay. This released a product that got into the blood to kill the foreign body. Okay? Any questions? All right, that ends chapter 21. Okay, so for today,